Andrew. Today I'm going to teach you how to make my meatloaf, which you really like when I made it at home. And it's very simple. So today I'm showing you the ingredients. Now, this is all eyeballed. There's no really strict measurements because meatloaf, whatever you put in it, is based on the type of flavors that you like, okay? And so what I'm going to show you is, this is the breadcrumbs, and it's Italian style. And the reason we choose that is because it's got lots of herbs in it. And then I throw in some garlic cloves. I've got about a medium-sized onion, no bigger than my fist, okay? Because I'm only using a pound or 2 pounds here, 1.8 kilograms of hamburger. And then 2 eggs, which are already here, which I haven't beaten yet, but I will. And barbecue sauce for some little bit of sweetness flavor. And behind the breadcrumbs is chopped organic parsley. Doesn't have to be organic, I just happen to have some. And it's not chopped fine, see? It's not chopped fine. And it's about maybe half a cup, if that, okay? And it doesn't have to be half a cup, it can be less. You can just leave the parsley out if you don't like parsley. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the hamburger. Now this just happens to be organic from Kirkland, like Kirkland, which is Costco. But you can get any hamburger you choose, okay? And I usually get very lean because, you know, your dad's got issues health-wise, and so we try to stay away from as much fat as possible. So I am going to beat the eggs. Now, if you don't have one of these tiny little beaters, which you can get at the dollar store, you can very easily just get a fork and do this with the fork. And when the eggs are broken up and the yolk and the white is all mixed together, see? Just basically, you're not whipping it, you're not trying to foam it, you just want to make sure it's nicely mixed together, okay? All right, so my first job is to season this meat, because if you don't season it, it's going to taste very bland. And you just need salt and pepper. So I'm flattening it out. I just flattened it out like that in the bowl, okay? And I have salt here. This is sea salt, okay? It's the pink sea salt. I don't use the white salt for anything, like that Windsor salt. So I take a pinch in my hands and I just sprinkle it evenly, okay? I distribute it evenly into the meat. And if you like a little bit of pepper, you can always put some pepper in there. Now, in my case, I think it should be fine pepper, not peppercorny, you know, chopped peppers, but because then you really get a hot peppery taste. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is sitting here like this, and I'm now going to mix the salt and the pepper together. Get a good distribution throughout the meat, okay? You can see what I'm doing? And the reason I have a glove on is because I don't really like touching raw meat. And if I have to go get something or touch another product, I can just take the glove off. I don't have to go wash my hands. I got a lot of these left over from COVID. So, okay. And so now, once I've done that, I've just punched it out again. Okay, so I'm going to take this out of the way. What I do next is I take the celery that I've chopped, and this is about a cup of chopped celery, which could be maybe, if you buy the small, you know, already like celery hearts, that was about 2 or 3 sticks. If you buy the big long ones, you might only need 1 from the stalk, celery stalk. Okay, and I'm putting it in here. And then I take the onions, which is also about a cup. It doesn't have to be a cup, it can be less if you like. But if you're using a lot of hamburger, then you want to make sure you got at least a cup. Okay, And also the garlic. Now here I have 1, 2, 3. This is about 4 cloves of garlic, actually. And you don't want to overpower the meat with garlic, but you do want to have a nice flavor. And garlic always adds flavor to your food. So that's going in here too. So if you don't have a chopper, I recommend you get one. You can buy them at Canadian Tire for next to nothing, or a liquidator, or maybe online. So there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to puree it the best I can. Okay, so this isn't like puree liquid, but it's pretty close to it. And what your chopper does, even if you have those little small ones, I got a little one from Canadian Tire. I'll just show you what it looks like so you see the texture. See? Very, very fine, almost mush. If I put water in there, it probably would puree it to more of a liquid puree. Okay, but I don't want a lot of moisture in the meat because then the meat won't cook, it won't stay together. So what I do is when I'm done, I put this in the center. Remember I punched out the meat and I put this in the center because the reason I do this is because it adds really, really nice flavor to the meat. See? Then I take the parsley and I sprinkle that in. And then I take the beaten egg and I put that on top. See? Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix all of this. And it's going to be mushy and gooey and you're going to go like, yuck. But if you have a glove on, and you can get these at the dollar store as well, these gloves, and use them when you're cooking. Okay, now here's the key. Okay, this is all mixed up really nice, see? Really nice. But it's very loose and has no texture. So this is where my breadcrumbs come in. And you have to make sure that you have a good amount of breadcrumbs because this is what, the breadcrumbs is the glue. And the egg is the binder. And I have put in quite a bit. I sprinkled it all around, okay? And then I start this again. And as you can see, as you are mixing the breadcrumbs in, it's starting to get a thicker texture. The breadcrumbs are absorbing the liquid, the egg. And as you're doing this, you can feel whether or not you've put in enough bread just based on how it's coming together. If you still feel that it's too loose, that it needs a little bit more firmness, because a meatloaf is firm, it's not loose, okay? You don't want it falling apart as soon when you cut it, a hamburger. So I feel, I've done this. Okay, now look at the texture. It's nice and, see? If I wanted to make meatballs, I could make meatballs out of this. This is also the same recipe for meatballs, by the way. But I still feel that it needs a little bit more. And you will, with practice, after you do a couple, say, oh, this meatloaf is really tender and falling apart when I cut it. It's not staying together. Then you try to remember how much breadcrumbs you put in. the last when you made it, and then go from there, because you learn the feel of it by practice, by making a couple, you know, repeating the recipe a couple of times, tweaking it, getting the feel of what the meat should feel like, okay? So I feel that right now, based on, it's very firm, I'm like really punching it, so that means that it is sticking together and it's ready. Okay, so what you do, you take your mix out of the bowl, and you have your foil ready. Maybe I'll switch this around for you so you can see better. Some people actually put mustard in here, but then, and it does add some flavor, but if I would put mustard, I'd use Dijon mustard. And also, I'm not making a hamburger, I'm making a meatloaf. Oh my goodness, I forgot to put in the barbecue sauce. Okay, here we go. My bad. Good thing this isn't a professional YouTube cooking channel. Okay, so what I do is, this is the best barbecue sauce to have for this type of meal. And so, I'm just squirting away, but not a lot, okay? All you want, that's it. It's not a lot. It's just a touch of flavor, okay? To give you that little bit of sweetness. And so once again, gotta mix it in. It's a good thing I remembered before I put it in the oven. The good thing about this is that it doesn't matter if you forgot something, you can quickly take it out of the oven and remix and add whatever you forgot when you're doing hamburger in this fashion. So, okay, I think I've distributed it enough in the meatloaf. And here we go. And Andrew, this could last you several days, or you can cut it in half, freeze it, and then take it out and defrost it and have it again another time, you know, if you've had more than your share of meatloaf for the week. And you can make meatloaf sandwiches on a bun with this. Just put a little bit of mustard, barbecue sauce on it, or ketchup. Now, if you don't have like this Sweet Baby Jane, or you can just use regular ketchup and mustard. I happen to use the barbecue sauce because it has a nice flavor. It's not boring. Ketchup is boring. Okay, so I have formed my meatloaf, and I have my pan. Now, the reason I didn't just stick it in the pan was because cleanup is a bitch, okay? So I'm trying to prevent a huge cleanup. So what I do is I lift it and I place it in the pan. And then I help, press down and form it so that it fills the pan. And you have a real size meatloaf, okay? So before I close this, there's one last touch. And that's this. Now, again, if you don't have this, you can do this with ketchup. It works just the same. Okay, so then take a spoon, and this is your layer. You do this to make sure that the meat doesn't dry out while it's baking. Okay? There. It's not going to dry out. And it's going to have a nice little barbecue crust on the top when you cut it, when you slice it. Okay? So here we go. Fold this in like this. The end first. There. Now, because I didn't cut enough foil, I've got a little opening in there. And so what you do to correct that is just grab some more foil and just cover it. Okay, just like that. Cover it over the edge. There. So I'm going to put this in the oven on the middle rack, and my oven is already ready, and it is set at 400. So I'm going to do this, and then when we're done, I'll be back. But it should only go in 400 for 30 minutes, and it should be done. See? All nice and sealed.